Connie and Lottie's Real Estate Podcast. We cover all of Alaska, residential, commercial, and everything in the middle. So, I'm Lottie. I know you're from Honey.
Right. And we're partners sometimes in transactions, and sometimes we're not. And sometimes we have disagreements about what should be done.
I'm always right.
Well, I have more experience. Well, I actually don't have more experience because...
But I didn't want to correct you.
All right. Okay.
I've been doing this 53 years, although I'm not that old. And Connie is right behind me, and she's not that old either.
Right. We both started, we were very, very young.
Exactly.
Okay, so I have a question to ask you on commercial. Okay, I come to the office from downtown. I come down C Street, and I see almost every building has for lease signs.
Yeah.
Office lease signs. Why is that? What's happening?
We don't have any new tenants coming in. We don't have any new industries opening up offices in Anchorage right now. So what we have musical chairs. So we've got tenants coming out of building A and going into building B, but then we've got a for lease sign in building B, then we put them in building C. So we've got musical chairs, but we don't have new companies coming in right now. And, that hopefully we're poised to change that with all of the things that are going on in DC and Juneau. So we should have an influx of new business, same industry. All of that's petroleum, but
so oil and gas, but it takes a long time for a startup, right? Or it takes a long time to actually, for our leasing market and our residential market, to see that economic activity, right?
But it's all happening. I mean, it's happening. We just don't. It's not on the street yet, but planning is started. Leases are going out with the state for the inlet and on the slope. So, I'm very optimistic about the Alaska economy, especially for next year, 26. So,
but I think it's I remember in 1985 when I was building 20-unit apartment buildings, right? The reason I was doing that because I looked across the street to Benson and New Surin Highway, and I saw the BP building going up. And I thought, well, BP is an international company. They can't be wrong, right? So I can build all these 20-unit apartment buildings, right? And now the BP building is empty and has been empty. You guys are leasing the building, right?
No. Well, it's not ever. The BP building, that building was sold to a REIT, a real estate investment trust. British Petroleum had a long-term lease. When they sold their Alaska interests to Hillcorp assumed that liability. A lease is a liability. They assumed that liability. That lease goes away in a couple of years. So Hillcorp's thus far hasn't been interested in leasing it. They don't want to pay leasing fees. They don't want to pay tenant improvements. They don't want to get involved with the costs that are involved in leasing the building. So it's easier for them to leave it vacant, and they've got it plugged into their worksheet and it works for them.
So I guess that's very good information. So we can't necessarily count on the ups and the downs because what happens politically, nationally, internationally has a tremendous impact on Alaska.
Absolutely. We're an extraction state. It's gold, it's oil, it's gas, we're a mining state. So, yeah.
So there's risk.
Oh, there's risk with everything.
Right.
But let's talk about risk. If you're investing in the stock market, there's no leverage. If you want to buy stock and it costs $1, you're paying $1. Right? If you want to buy $1 worth of real estate, you might put in 50 cents.
Mm-hmm.
You can leverage into that. That's a big thing. There's some tax advantages and incentives, not loopholes, that are involved with commercial real estate. So that incentivizes us to take on that risk. So there is risk, and the reward could be there. And to balance that out, we've got some incentivization.
So the Fed just reduced a quarter point a couple of days ago. That's a good thing for commercial loans, right? It takes a while for the mortgage aspect of it to have a benefit. But we do anticipate that that's going to create some additional interest.
Right. I agree with you. And I'll say the same thing. So you're not looking at an old podcast just because I've said this 100 times. I will say this. The interest rate is relevant, but it's not the end all and be all. I would say it on commercial property, and I think it's absolutely relevant for residential.
I don't know that I can agree with you on that, but we'll get to that. All right.
Okay. On commercial, if you need a warehouse, you need a warehouse. If you're going to pay 1/4% higher, you're going to pay 1/4% higher, but you need a warehouse. If you need a storefront for your retail operation or offices for your business, you need that. If it costs a little bit more, you still do it. You might not acquire the premium space like you do when you're managing your home. If you need a quart of milk, the children need a quart of milk, you buy a quart of milk. And in my opinion, that's true for residential, but I haven't really been involved in residential, so I would absolutely, whatever you say on this would be.
Well, I think there is quite a bit of difference because we obviously have the aging boomer, and they had great opportunities to have increases in value, 35% leveraged, okay, as a result of COVID and the pandemic. Now they're sort of stuck. They have these big houses, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 square feet, right? And they have a very low mortgage, huge equity, right? And now they are ready to move, whether it's to Wasilla or Arizona or wherever, right? And they're in shock because of the high cost of the mortgage, even though it's at 6%. And you and I remember when 6% was a great mortgage rate.
Holy cow.
My first home that I ever sold, I sold at 14.75% interest. Now, that goes to the point that you said earlier, which is when you need a place to live. But the question is, can you afford a place to live, right? Or are you going to end up renting?
You can afford a place well, I would say many people can afford a home. They might not want to live in the home they can afford.
That's
correct. It's not that the market has priced you out. It's maybe our expectations are greater than our financial capability. So I have some concern when people say they can't afford a house. They probably can, but they may not want to live in a home that they can afford.
So we're talking about the housing ladder, and the first step on the housing ladder can be a condo. It can be a manufactured home. But there is a lot of concern because of the increased rate of inflation that even those homes require a down payment. And if you don't have a mother or a father or an uncle or a beneficiary of some sort, it's still the question of the down payment. Now, that's not true as far as veteran loans are concerned because they're very popular right now because they can do 000 down. 8% of Alaska's population is veterans, which is the highest in the nation. So that area of the market is really, really very, very active. But sometimes what you're saying is it's not the monthly payment. It's the down payment that's keeping a lot of young people from buying their first home because inflation, whether it's a quart of milk or whether it's going out to dinner or whatever, or student loans, it's very, very difficult to save that down payment.
Okay, and then we could get off on a tangent. You can kick me under the table or just do this and I'll be quiet.
Okay.
But the tangent is we have to have some self-discipline. So maybe we don't go out for dinner for this year so I can save money for a down payment. So I'm making good money or we're all making good money.
Right.
Maybe the question is the discipline to save it. We all want shiny shoes or a brand new car, but maybe cooler heads should prevail and we should say, let's drive the old jalopy for another year so we can get enough down payment to buy another home.
I think that's really very true. But the problem is these Generation Z and X and all that sort of thing, they're used to having a really nice lifestyle because their parents are the aging boomers that have done really well financially. So you're talking, so I understand what you're saying. And that used to be true of people in the 50s and maybe even in the 60s, 1950s, 1960s, where people were a lot more conservative when they are now. But so I want to blame social media for all of that, because you can't read, you can't use your phone and see anything to even get any news without saying, buy this, do this, the influencers.
Pictures of people having expensive dinners.
Right.
And then, of course, then they have to go get meds for their high cholesterol and shots because they've gained a couple of pounds. I'm off.
You're off. You're right. All right. Okay. I want to talk about the $1 million market just for a minute, because I think it is so shocking that we now have all of these homes. And let me look here and I can tell you exactly how many of them we have. I think we have 31 homes in Anchorage over $1 million.
Wow.
Yes. Now, we sell 60 or 70 of them every year, but that's a
huge market. Yeah, you sold the most expensive residential property in the city.
Right. That's true. I have
Write that down.
Right. $3.6 million, but I don't I just want to be known for that. I wouldn't like to work a broader area of the market. I just don't want to be known as blah, 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 who sells all the expensive homes. But what's happening now is that market is going to the valley as well. So now there are like 19 homes over $1 million in the valley. And that never used to be the case.
And you've got $1 million homes in Homer too, right?
Yes.
So because we do work all over the state, I mean, Connie's talking about Anchorage now, but these expensive homes are all over, and people are coming from all over the world to buy homes in Homer.
Right. That's absolutely true. The ones that are coming from all over the world, sometimes they're buying lodges, all right, recreational properties, a second home or a third home or that sort of thing. In the valley, most of them are on lakes, okay, or airstrips. We have a tremendous number of private airstrips here. We have some in Anchorage, but we have a lot of them in the valley as well. So they have a recreational component. They're just not 4,000 or 6,000 square feet. We have some of those older homes. The issue really is the older home that, say, is 4,000 square feet, right? But it's 40 years old. And if it hasn't been remodeled, it's not going to be worth $1 million. And that's a problem for a lot of our sellers, because they don't understand that, because they're looking at a brand new home on a price per square foot, which is now, if it's going to be customized at all, it's going to be $500 a foot. Wow. Right. Yeah. It's a lot. Right. So we have this divide, I guess is what I'm saying, in residential. We have the very well-to-do, and then we have the affordability issue. Because, as I've said before, a piece of sheetrock coming from China, whether it's in a subsidized affordable home or whether it's in a $3 million home, the cost of that piece of sheetrock is the same. And the cost for the installation of it is also the same. So to take that piece of sheetrock and put it into an affordable home, really what we're talking about is subsidies, some sort of government subsidy, some sort of state or local.
Well, that's all the financing is. HFC subsidized, VA is subsidized. There are subsidies built in. That's already there.
We need more if we're going to fill that area of the market.
Well, in Anchorage, why are homes less expensive, say, in the valley? I'm going to use the valley because it's a homeowner would buy in the valley or Anchorage.
Correct.
They might not go all the way out to Homer or Kenai, but they could commute to work. Why they do that is because it's less expensive. Why is it less expensive? It's less paperwork. It's all those soft costs that you don't see when you put your head on the pillow at night. You don't think about, it took 6 months to process this paperwork for the plat. It took this long to get all of the planning done for this home in Anchorage.
Well, that's true. 20 to 25%, according to the National Association of Home Builders, the cost of a home or a lot is 25% for those soft costs, and that's absolutely.
And those soft costs are much less outside of the municipality of Anchorage.
In Massachusetts, rural, they don't exist. You can just
Much less.
Yeah, you can just build whatever it is on this that you want to build. Now, when you get into Wasilla, it's a little bit more, and when you get into Palmer, it's a lot more. So, and you can see the difference in terms of where all those building permits actually are. So, I don't disagree with you that regulation is a significant cost.
Right.
And we're not really addressing regulation here.
That'd be the easiest thing to address. That's the easiest thing to address. We're not going to get sheetrock, no matter who's sitting in the mayor's office. We're not going to get sheetrock any cheaper. We're not going to get labor any cheaper.
Well, I agree with you. So, I mean, but overcoming regulation, changing regulation is the hardest thing to do. It really is.
But it's the only thing. We can have a bunch of talk about everything else, but it's the regulation that we do have control over if we take control, but we're not taking control. We're going to talk about, whatever, costs of goods that we don't have control over.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I just think there are just a lot of factors. Like, let's go back to the Valley, for example. The difference is in the price of the home is $100,000. All right. For basically the same home. It's $100,000.
It's not the building itself that's $100,000. Because if you have 3,000 square feet and you turn it into a house and you put it in Anchorage, it's $300,000 for the building plus the dirt. Then, or you put it in Anchorage. Did I say Anchorage there?
Right.
Valley, it's still $300,000 for the building, and then it's the dirt.
And then the dirt is less.
That's the difference. It's only that, and then the soft cost. A door is still going to be $450 a door,
right?
Whether you put it in a home in Palmer or
that's what I said. Or Anchorage. Yes, I agree with that. So it's the availability of land and it's regulation.
Regulation is a two deal, right?
Those are the two items. Well, if you don't have enough land, you have a problem. I have a problem as a residential land developer. I'm looking for another development.
You have challenges.
Right. Well, I have challenges just to find a piece of dirt that will work. Yeah. Because just remember, we've got Chugach State Park. We've got the inlet.
That physical boundaries that keeps us right here.
Right. So the other morning at 7:30 in the morning, I was driving up the Glen Highway. It was a steady stream of lights. At 7:30, coming into Anchorage to go to work.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They can buy that 300 or 30,000 square feet or $300,000 home in Anchorage, or they can buy it in the Valley. And the difference is they're going to drive. People will drive.
Because they want a yard, they'd like a backyard, they would like an extra bedroom, and they would like a third car. And so our economy and our labor force is changing. So, for example, in the medical community now, they used to work 4 10s. Now they work 3 12s. Right. Makes all the difference in the world. So that they can, couch surf on a friend or go rent an Airbnb or a modest hotel room, right? And they're only, they're 4 days that they have off to live in their home in the Valley. Yeah. It's a challenge.
Can I jump into Girdwood, or is it that's another podcast? Don't say I don't want it to be continued, but they continue. Okay, I want to talk about that, but we could do that.
All right. So I will make a commitment to you and to all of our listeners that we will have a podcast on Girdwood. And I can't believe I just said that, but I will do that. We are on third base. It's taken us 4 years. I was a much younger person, intellectually, socially, emotionally. Before I won that RFP. Let me tell you, it's put on a few pounds and a few wrinkles, really.
I can tell you that because there's been something in the newspaper saying,
letters of interest.
Letters of interest.
Right.
And because you and I work together, although I don't have anything to do with Holton Hills, I've gotten a lot of people, 3. Oh, I'm so excited about this. They're not even thinking, at least 2 of them, aren't thinking about buying in Holton Hills, they're thinking other people are going to buy in and they're going to buy their old cabin.
Right.
Exactly. Because that's, they can't afford new construction and all of that. But like I have an old cabin. I might sell it and buy in Holton Hills, for instance. So people are looking at, the people that have talked to me are thinking there's a lot of ways to now get into the Girdwood market that before didn't exist. So, okay, so we'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about that.
That's a good teaser.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk about that later. I promise.
Okay.
All right. I don't know when. Before Christmas. Before Christmas, we will talk about it.
Okay.
Well, yeah, we are at we are on third base. We're at the Planning and Zoning Commission on January 5th.
Excited.
For approval.
Very excited.
We hope for approval. Right. Okay, you got me talking about it. I can't believe that. But sorry. We will do a podcast before Christmas on Girdwood.
Okay.
All right.
So you've got a bunch of stats there. Did we cover them all?
Pretty much. Well, yeah. The difference in cost, the difference in value for a lot. We've talked about that. I haven't written any articles recently. I guess I'll just leave you with this one thought. There's not much change in the marketplace. It's pretty much just the same. Now, it wouldn't be polite for me to say that it's boring, right? But when it's just the same, the only people that are buying and selling homes right now are people that have to, based upon marriage, birth, death, divorce, and job change.
Right.
Those are the only people that.
And they're going to do that.
Regardless of what the interest rate is.
Yeah.
Yes. Now back to your original premise. All right. That's it, folks. Stay tuned. So we're going to have a podcast on our predictions for 2026. We're going to do that. I promised you a podcast on Girdwood, and you can ask me any question that you want to ask me. And we're going to have one more. It's the podcast. It's the on Girdwood. And here's the big one coming in. You may or may not agree with this, but our former U.S. Senator Mark Begich is going to be here on December 22nd to talk about downtown Anchorage.
Oh, great.
And
I'm very active in downtown, so.
Yeah. And what he's planning. And I remember Mark years ago when he was mayor of Anchorage, and I was trying to talk to him about residential and subdivision. He said, Connie, nobody really cares about your subdivisions. Everybody just cares about what's downtown, right? When tourists come to look at a city, and think about the city, they don't say, well, drive me out to Potter Creek and all that sort of.
Okay, so I'm excited for Mark to be here, and I will. Well, I'm always here anyway, but I'll definitely be here and I'll leave it with this. There's over 200 white-collar jobs, state employees that have left the downtown area. They're still doing work, but they're not in downtown anymore. So when we start taking out good-paying jobs out of downtown and we start closing Nordstrom's, something has to give. So we have to think about that. Because for every action, there's a reaction. We can't vacate white-collar jobs, which is what. Well, anyway.
Well, I'm excited about. So I think it's a bold step what Mark has done.
Oh, yeah.
To make this investment with the hotel and then the other plan. So, I think it's bold. I have to give him a lot of credit for that. So I'm interested in hearing more.
Yeah, I love that can-do spirit.
Yep, absolutely. So those are 3 new podcasts coming up.
Okay,
Stay tuned. Yep, stay tuned.